Dear students, welcome to Economics online class. Today we are going to start a new chapter. This is your 10th chapter, Rural Economics. In this chapter, we have to understand about the features of rural economy and to highlight the needs to develop rural areas and to bring into the light the problems of rural villages and to familiarize the initiatives undertaken by the government. Okay, this is the concept we have to learn this lesson. The rural development or rural economic deals with the application of economic principles in understanding and developing rural areas. So it deals with the application of economic principles, okay, in the rural areas for the developing and development. In general, rural areas are geographical areas located outside towns and cities. So that according to the Census of India, the basic unit for rural areas is the revenue villages. The basic unit for rural areas is revenue village. Rural economy refers to villages and rural community refers to the people living in villages. Okay, understand the concept. Rural economy refers to the villages. Rural community refers to the people of living in villages. Rural areas have problems like backwardness of agriculture, low income, low employment opportunities, poverty, low infrastructural development, low illiteracy, low labor and low productivity, lower prices of agricultural products, surplus labor force, larger population, high level of migration and a high dependency on natural resources and nature. According to the 2011 population, the census, 2011 population census, there are 6,40,867 villages in India and 68.84% of the 121 crore total population live in the rural areas. So this much of people living in villages. The next concept is features of rural economy. What are the features of rural economy? How can we identify the rural economy? The main characteristics of rural economy are village is an institution. Village also is an institution like education institution. Okay, the village is a primary institution and is satisfy almost all the needs of the rural community. So the rural community means living who are the living peoples in villages. They are called as rural community. So that they want to satisfy, okay, they want to satisfy all the needs. The rural people have a feeling of belongingness and a sense of unity towards each other. So depending upon each other. So the belongingness and feeling of oneness is there among the people. So the learning is going on from the elders to the youngest. So that's why we are saying village is an institution. Dependence on agriculture. So always the village people depending on the agricultural field. So the rural economy depends much on nature and agricultural activities. Agriculture and allied activities are the main occupation in rural areas. So always they are engaged in the agricultural areas. Life of the rural people. Lifestyle in villages are very simple, not like the city people. They are living a simple life. So that public services like education, housing, health and sanitation, transport and communication, banking, roads and markets are limited and unavailable. So in the villages. So rural people rely much on faith. They are believing the faith and superstitious believings. Traditional culture practices, they strongly believing these areas. The standard of living of majority of rural people are poor and pitiable. Okay, their standard of life is very, very poor condition. In terms of methods of production, social organization and political mobilization, the rural sector is extremely backward and weak. So that the political mobilization also and rural sector is extremely backward and weak in the rural area. In recent years, the incidence of alcohol drinking has gone up. Population density. What about population density in rural areas? Population density measured by number of persons living per square kilometer is very low and houses are scattered in the entire villages. This is the status of population density. So scattered, the living houses also scattered here and there, and a number of people, person living per square kilometer is very low. So the next one is employment. What about employment condition in rural areas? There are exist unemployment, seasonal unemployment and underemployment in rural areas. Okay, there are existing unemployment, seasonal unemployment and underemployment existing here. So unemployment refers to the situation of people with the willingness and ability to work but is not getting employment. So this is the unemployment. 2 mark question. Okay, unemployment means the situation of people. The people are willing to work, but there is no job. So underemployment, also called discussed unemployment, is the situation of people employed in excess. If a person, if a labor wanted 5 labor only wanted in the field means working field means 10 people, then 10 laborers will be there. The excess 5 laborers going to doing the work. This is underemployment or discussed unemployment, we can say. Over and above the requirement, the excess labor is there means it is called as discussed unemployment or underemployment, we can say. Discussed unemployment is a situation where people work but not increase in production. Even though they are working there, they cannot give overproduction or increase the production. Both the situations are common in rural areas. The rural areas only we can see the underemployment or discussed employment. Poverty. Poverty is a condition where the basic needs of the people like food, cloth and shelter are not being met, which is scarce food and clothing and sheltering they are experiencing there. According to the 2011 to 12 estimates, about 22 crores of the people in rural areas are poor and live below the poverty line. BPL we can say. Indebtedness. People in rural areas are highly indebted owing to poverty and underemployment, lack of farm and non-farm employment opportunities, low wage employment, seasonality in production, poor marketing network, etc. These are the reason they are still now experiencing the indebtedness. A famous British writer, Sir Malcolm Darling, he stated that an Indian farmer is born in debt, lives in debt, dies in debt and bucket debt. This may be asked in your 1 mark. Who said these quotes? The famous British writer Sir Malcolm Darling. In 1925 he stated that an Indian farmer is born in debt, lives in debt, dies in debt and bucket debt. Since formal loan facilities are not available to the villagers, since they depend on local money lenders who like parasite squeeze the villagers. The money lenders like parasite, they sucking the bloods of the villagers. So that's why they saying parasite. Okay. Hence the villagers commit suicide frequently because of the torture of the money lenders. They are committing suicide. Rural income. The income of the rural people is constrained as the rural economy is not sufficiently vibrant to provide them with the job self-employment opportunities. So that the large proportion of laborers and skilled laborers are underemployed and the scope for increasing their income is limited. So even though they are going to increasing their employment opportunity, the large proportion of laborer and skilled persons are underemployed. So the scope for increasing their income is limited. So the limited income, the rural income also will be limited. Dependency. The rural households are largely dependent on social grants and remittances from family members working in urban areas and cities. Okay, they always depending on their son and daughters, those who are working in the cities, okay, the urban areas or cities. Suppose the family, in a family, only one person can earn money. Suppose they are living in the cities or urban, they are earning money and send their money to their parents and siblings. That is dependency. Okay. Dualism. Dualism means the coexistence of two extremely different features like developed and underdeveloped, organized and unorganized, traditional and modern, regulated and unregulated, poor and rich, skilled and unskilled, and similar contracting situations in a region. These characteristics are very common in rural areas. Okay, imbalance commonly seen in the rural areas. Inequality. So the inequality means the distribution of income, wealth and assets are highly skewed among the rural people. There are a number of historical, social, economic and political reasons behind the existence of inequality. Even though the historical, social, economic and political reason behind that, the landlords and landowners dominate the rural activities. So they only dominating the rural activities. That's why this much of inequality happening there. So the land, livestock and other assets are owned by a few people only. The rest of the peoples and all slaves. So that inequality prevailing there. Migration. Migration means the rural people are forced to migrate from village to urban areas in order to seeking the gainful employment for their livelihood. This character of the development gives rise to the formation of city. So if they always going or moving from village to cities means what will be there? What will be happen? The city population will be increased. So enmity and lack of basic amenities in rural areas also push the people to migrate to urban areas. So lack of social infrastructure, the rural peoples also moving from village to cities. And for job opportunities, they are moving. This is called double poisoning. Okay, underline it. So what is mentioning the double poisoning? This is called double poisoning. What? The enmity and lack of basic amenities in the rural areas push the people to migrate to urban areas. This is called double poisoning. This is said by Schumachel. One side villages are empty, on the other side the towns are congested because migration. His book is Small is Beautiful, describes the dangers of the present kind of development. He explained about the present kind of development in the cities, which is very, very danger. He said danger. Okay. This is the features of rural development or rural economy. Students, go through the video carefully. How many points we learned today? 12 points about features of rural economy you learned. What is the meaning of rural economy? Everything you learned. Go through the video carefully and write the 12 points test and send to me.